Welcome to a new Daily Top Askreddit video. Today's topic.
Men of Reddit, what's the male equivalent of needed money, had no marketable skills, so turned to prostitution. Needed money, had no marketable skills, so joined the military, not even trying to be controversial, but that's literally how they market to guys in poor areas. My brother joined up because we were homeless, literally recruited right out of the shelter. Every unit I was ever in had guys that were homeless and joined simply to escape that situation. The worst part to me is that some guys didn't tell me about it for almost 2 decades after. I was visiting a friend and telling him about some of my struggles after the military. He decided to share then that prior to joining, his bad days were in a Walmart parking lot and his good days were in a motel. Joining the military. Either way, you end up selling your body. I'm in the military, literally use this argument if someone shits on sex workers lol. When our work dried up temporarily, my whole crew started selling plasma. With the right blood type they pay you extra for certain programs. We called ourselves professional hemogoblins. Did this throughout college, but it was something like $60 a week. The way you make it sound is they were paying out a living wage. Curious of how much you got? I got $115 a week, and if I gained 5 to 10 pounds I made $135 a week. At first it was like $800 a month. Then you'd switch companies to get their bonus money, stick with them for a bit, switch companies for the bonus money, stick with them for a bit, switch companies for the bonus money. Infinity. So I turned to construction. Quote, constructitution. I'll even pay you a little extra if you make yourself available to be fucked on your day off. We sell our bodies too. Ours usually means menial manual labor that destroys your joints and muscles, leaving you basically crippled in your older years. Yeah, this. My friend is a roofer, he's 40 and has back and knee problems of someone almost twice his age. Friend of mine is on his way to this as a lineman and the money is so good he doesn't give a shit. Hard labor at remote locations, like the oil industry, shipping, mining, remote construction jobs and the like. Nowadays much of it is skilled labor, but there are still jobs that only really require that you're able to work long hours and live out of a tiny dormitory away from civilization for weeks or months at a time. This is what I'd say, military can fall under this as well. I've seen a lot of people talk about doing this remote labor, making bank and saving it away. But for every one of those I feel like there's 10 plus that are going back to remote work earlier than planned and ultimately have nothing to show for it. My nephew does this, he's a pipeline welder, following one job site to the next. He sends his money home but also spends the rest like water. Been doing it for 17 years or so. Joining the army. In Texas, there are 2 options when looking down the barrel of destitution: running to recruiter office or running to the oil rigs. At least in the military you're not covered in crude oil so thick you can't sweat in 100 plus heat, 10 plus hours a day. If you can't tell, I did both and decided the military was easier. I mean, you're working for oil companies either way, so. Drug dealing or joining the military. I'm a veteran. You can still do one while doing the other. The 2 are not mutually exclusive. Yeah, I just finished the Fort Bragg cartel. You can definitely do both. Turning to prostitution. When I was in my 20s I thought very briefly about becoming a male escort. Then I quickly realized that my client base wouldn't be hard up women like the movies make it out to be, but probably some really sketchy men. Correct, unless you're literally the biggest and hottest guy around. How does one become male prostitute? Asking for a friend. Edit, my friend no longer wants to be a male prostitute. By taking a lot of dick, if what I read on the internet is true. Well, to start, your clients will be men. Love penis. Scamming and drug dealing. Don't you need to be iron balls or have decent brain for that? You don't really need a decent brain to be a drug dealer, drugs sell themselves. You really just need enough sense to not get robbed or arrested too often. Military or manual labor. You are a tool of capitalism regardless of your gender or sex. True, in both cases you get f'd in the ass. Medical testing. This or donating plasma, sperm. Walking into a plasma center was probably the most humiliated I felt for myself. It really made me realize that I should find a job, any job, and work hard. Then they couldn't find a good vein so I didn't make a single dime LMAO. That was more than 10 years ago and life is great now. Day laborer, dishwasher, busboy. Warehouse. Any warehouse job. One of my biggest, the economy is fucked in a permanent way, indicators is that there are now pretty young women working in fulfillment centers. The military. I say that as a vet. Not sure how you being veterinarian is relevant, but okay. Sometimes you have to whore yourself out a bit to keep kibbles on the table. Uber, DoorDash. Did a bit of DoorDash in 2020-2021 when I had nothing else to do, so figured why not get paid to drive around and listen to music. Wasn't anything life-changing, but net $20 per hour or so for laughably easy work on my own time was a fine side gig when the alternative wasn't anything better. Quit as soon as the money started dropping, and it wasn't worth it anymore by the end of 2021. Can't imagine needing to rely on that for income now. Well, if you have a car that doesn't use gas, it would probably still be worth it. Op say make money not spending money. Today Op learned that men can be prostitutes too. Had no marketable skills, so worked manual labor below a living wage till diabetes caught up to him because he couldn't afford insulin, then he died of kidney failure. If I had a nickel for every person I knew with that story, I'd have 10 cents, which isn't a lot, but it's still a strange coincidence. 2 people is a lot to have died from fucking poverty. The fact that 99% of all deaths on the job occur in men. Men generally use their bodies for non-sexual physical labor. This is the answer. Sure, the military might be an answer for deeply militarized countries like the US, but for the rest of the world, that is hardly an option. Only the most fit can do it. For what it is worth, it's not really an option for most people in the US. Either. I read somewhere that only around 20% of young adults in the US are qualified to enlist. Most are not due to weight problems, educational deficiencies, a history of drug abuse, mental health problems, etc. We're an empire INDEC line to be sure. One of the darkest days a man can possibly face, that slow walk into the pawn shop with the Xbox, PlayStation. I knew a guy who used to do it frequently. He'd basically pawn his console off every month and then buy it back when the paycheck came round, only to pawn it off later in the month again. Fuck man, that's depressing. And I know plenty of people gotta live like that. Manosphere podcaster, that's a perfect equivalent to of. You have the millionaires at the top and the rest are struggling in an oversaturated market. Manual labor, I have been selling my body for a paycheck forever and I feel every minute of it right now. North America, Europe, military, Mexico, Central America, South America, cartel, Africa, Middle East, terrorist, militia group, Asia, sweatshop. Poor Mexicans also join the army. Joining ICE. Let's not sully the fine profession of prostitution with that comparison. That's more selling your soul than your body. Like, I would be less ashamed of my son if he were a street prostitute versus an ICE agent. I would agree. Fucking strangers is far more preferable to murdering them in the street. People keep saying military, but in 2026 ICE might be the best entry-level option for the unskilled. The recruitment website literally has the same qualifications as a prison guard, high school diploma preferred. They don't fire people even if they fuck up terribly. Talk about job security. The woke military brass will discharge you if you kill an American citizen, no matter what BS the recruiter tries to tell you, so don't be fooled. So far Kristi Noem was the only employee so bereft of skill that they got canned, so the bar is extremely low. I've made the joke before that I would sign up, get paid good cash and promised a huge bonus that he'll never see, then be laughably, horrendously, strangely consistently awful at my job. I just don't know boss, they got away again. I'll maybe get them next time for sure. Where's the coffee and donuts? Quote. Hobosexual, needed money, too lazy and, or dumb to make their own, found a woman with her shit together. Impregnated her, contributed the bare minimum as to not be left, found gainful employment impossible to achieve and emotionally abused her to trap her into the relationship. My cousin, my sister-in-law, multiple friends, they should do a study on that subset of men. Women, the men are just opportunists. The women who are like, yeah, my life is going good and I got my shit together, so I think I'm gonna fuck this hot homeless guy. Is the psychology that's worth studying. Went back to the family farm that I swore off in my 20s. Was an industrial electrician and lost my job, and unfortunately me finding another job was going to require a massive relocation. Couldn't do it as I had obligations where I was at. Ended up selling my house and getting a prefab house put on my family's farm and went back to being a plowboy and a cow puncher. I'm not thrilled about it, but I'm not broke and homeless either. I'm almost 40 now and I take care of my parents and our relationship has never been better. That's it. It's the same. OnlyFans, male exotic dancer, male escort, and I can't remember what it's called, but married couples will hire you to fuck the wife while the husband watches. It's a fetish they have. No judgment here. If that's what you're into and everyone agrees, then go for it. Cuckolding is the term, I believe. Where does one go to get hired for this service? Asking for a friend, tears of joy. Just be prepared for the type of woman. From the stories you hear, people expect the fetishy CEO with the hot model wife, but in reality you end up with woman you'd probably avoid if she approached you in a club, with poor hygiene, and then you get shit on for not getting a boner. A friend of mine does this and literally has his travel expenses paid for by people in different countries who want him to come and have sex with the wife while the husband watches and records them. He said he meets them on the Telegram app. Apparently there's like a chat room or whatever that you can go in and meet people who are into it. I think that's dangerous, but he's been to multiple countries and hasn't had a problem, but I wouldn't recommend it. You don't think male sex workers exist. So anyway, they started blasting sweat droplets. I fucked my landlady for 4 months in lieu of rent while her fiancé worked out of town. I also used to have a guy who lived one building down from me, a doctor, believe it or not, who paid me $120 to watch me jack off. This career path only exists if you're a decently endowed hottie though. The second one is probably more open than you think. A lot of men aren't picky. Okay, I'll bite. Did she proposition you or how did that start? Exclamation mark.